Hey, film gazers, Kat Pachong here for the Film to Gaze podcast. This podcast is all about underground cinema and young filmmakers paving their way in the industry. And I'm so excited for today's guest, Jason Holmes, who's a director and producer. And he recently just produced a pilot called Therapy Sesh. And we'll be diving deep into all of that and more. Thank you, Jason, for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's my pleasure joining you. How about you, Kat?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a Friday and it's a great day already, so I'm happy to be here. Yeah. Before we jump in, I just wanted to have a couple of icebreakers, and I know one of your favorite directors is Spike Lee. I'm gonna quiz you and see if you know
Oh
something
man.
on him. So, can you name the three Oscar-winning performances that Spike Lee directed?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with "Do the Right Thing" is one of them.
Which actors? Sorry, I should specify.
Ooh, which actors?
Mhm.
So I don't think I know for sure the exact actors. I'm gonna take a strike on that one.
Okay, that's fine. One is Denzel Washington.
I thought so. I
Yeah,
didn't want to just throw it out there and be like, "Oh, Denzel was a winner."
Denzel always a winner.
Right?
Adam Driver and Danny Aiello.
Oh man. So I know Adam Drivers is from The Klansman.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Danny
Daniel
Aiello.
Anyalu
I want
was
to say do the
that
right thing. Huh? Which one?
that Do the Right Thing?
I'm not sure. That
Okay.
that was a guess. Let me clarify that one. That was
Salma.
do the right thing. He was the pizza father guy.
Wow,
Pizza guy.
man.
Yeah.
I didn't know he went that far back with Spike.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Learn something
Second
new every
question.
day.
Right. So Spike Lee has directed films that have been selected for the National Film Registry in the Library of Congress. Do you know those five films?
I'm gonna go with Do the Right Thing.
Yes.
Klansman.
No, actually.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
But still historically like relevant in that sense.
Historically relevant in that sense. Man, now you got me about to do my homework when I get off of here, Cat. Spike's gonna be like, he failed me. How's he a fan? I cannot think of the other four.
She's Gotta Have It.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, Malcolm X.
Right. With Denzel.
Four, yeah, with Denzel. Four Little Girls and Bamboozled.
Wow.
And I have not seen Four Little Girls or Bamboozled. So that's on my list. And I can't
Right.
even call myself a fan if I haven't seen them. So
Right. I
yeah,
watched Do the Right Thing and fell in love and was like, that's it. I'm a Spike fan.
right. He's so like unique, culturally relevant always. I feel like
Most
I,
definitely.
if I was in film class today and that's one of the films we're watching, then I'd feel like I don't know. I feel like every film class has a Spike Lee moment or a Spike Lee day where we just watch one of his films,
Right.
how important he is.
So true.
Yeah. But let's talk about you now. How did you get into film? What was that initial spark of inspiration?
So I think every filmmaker's had this moment, but I watched a lot of films. I love film. And when I went to one too many bad movies and I saw it on the big screen, I was like, I can do better than this. I know I can. And I dived into it and found out it was a little harder than I expected, but seeing a lot of people do it the wrong way, I wanted to dive in and do it the right way.
Mhm.
And that drove me to Full Sail, and the rest was history.
Nice. What were those bad movies?
Sharknado was the main one. The first one, the very first one. And then there was another one. I forgot who it was, but it was one of those actors that typically run in those Hollywood circles and they have a idea and then they get with their friends with money and they put
Mhm.
out a film and it was so bad. And I left the film and I was like, wow, like this is what we're subject to watching. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm starting to create. And that was the end of that.
So when you went to Full Sail, what position was calling out to you the most?
It was actually director, which was kind of weird because I'm a more behind the scenes, low key, want to write and that's it guy. But I did the behind the scenes tour with my brother,
Mhm.
and it seemed like the position everybody would want it just happened to fall in my lap and they were like, hey, you're the director. And I was like, wow. So we did a little scene and everything. And the people were there like, wow, you're pretty much a natural, man. You're really good at this. Are you thinking about coming for film and being a director? I was like, not really. I really like writing and kind of like doing the behind the scenes stuff. I'm not really in front of the camera or at the forefront type of guy. And it kind of went from there. And then as we did projects at Full Sail, I was kind of thrust in that position and I just embraced it and it's been going well.
Nice. And what would you say is the like top five things you need to be as a director? Like, is it leadership qualities? Is it organization? Like, what makes a good director in your opinion?
Man, I would actually say you hit a lot of it, the nail on the head. It's a mix of those. So
Mhm.
I think first of all is having a clear vision, because when you have a clear vision, you're confident in what you're doing and what you're trying to create, and then people can get behind that because they know where they're going. So I'd say that's the first thing. Or being organized would be the second, because you have to know where you're going and how to get there. And you have to have all the information ready, knowing what you're looking for. And when you're able to be organized, you can kind of instruct people and lead them in the right way because you know where you're going and how you're getting there.
Mhm.
And one of the third ones I would say is being confident in what you're doing and what you know, because people can't really get behind somebody who doesn't really feel that they know what they're doing, because they could kind of feel that and it's like, well, if he doesn't really know how to lead and he's asking me too many questions and he doesn't know what he's looking for, who's really running the set, who's really running the vision. And I think that's a key thing to that, because when you know what you want, you know how to get there, and you're going to lean on people for their strengths to get there and what they bring to the table to ultimately bring your vision to life. And I say like maybe two other ones would be um being able to clearly communicate stuff, because that's everything. You're trying to bring something to life and you're communicating what's on paper. And the last one I would say would be hmm leadership qualities, because all of those are needed and it's a mixed bag, and leaders naturally lead. And if you can do that, you can lead a group of people and creating something.
That's really good. Those are all really good. Because there have been directors where the vision isn't clear, and so you have a team of people who are just kind of like, well, I don't know, does this work? And the director's like, sure. And then it's not what they wanted, or they don't know how to articulate what they want. And those subtle details can be seen or felt on screen, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And as you went through your process at Full Sail, um, sharpening your skill set and everything, how important is it to one, trust the people you work with, and two, also networking with those around you so that you can, you know, refer to people later if you have a project coming up?
Oh man, that's a good question. So I would say the biggest thing with being able to trust the people around you is first selecting a great team, because you have to look at people's strengths, and you'll kind of see that as you're going through the classes. You see what people are like, oh man, they're really great with lighting. They want to be a director, but man, the way they lit that scene was perfect, or different DPs. And then you're able to trust them because you know that's their strengths. And
Right.
when you're able to do that, that's one less thing that's on your plate, because instead of you trying to lean on them, well, instead of you trying to do it yourself, you can lean on them, trusting that's something that they excel in. And then you could focus on the overall picture and vision of what you're trying to create. And I think getting into every project you can, talking to everybody, getting to meet them and know about them and genuinely learn things about them, get that authentic, I say create an authentic network of people that you know and that you can keep in touch with as you continually go. And you never know what they blossom into or what they may have a connection to that you may be interested in. And later down the line, just through organic conversation, you get to know about a different project that they're working on or something they heard about that may not be in their wheelhouse but may be in yours, and then they can refer you to those, and it opens up doors, things you wouldn't imagine that were available to you if you didn't know that person.
That's so true. Like every time I'm a PA on a set now, I try and look around me and not to rule anyone out because you just don't know who that person knows, what they're capable of. And at the same time, we're all technically at the bottom. So the more you network sideways, the more we can all kind of elevate each other, you know?
So true, so true.
Yeah. But let's talk about therapy sesh, right? Or is
Yeah,
it therapy
yeah,
set?
it's therapy sesh. Yeah, you
Okay.
got it right, one of the first.
What is that about? What is that show about?
So it's a pilot for a TV series talking about a newly divorced woman that's going through the throes of trying to find her identity, as she was married to somebody who was cheating on her. And then she was left to kind of figure it all out as he kind of goes in and out of her life. But she's trying to get her footing again. And like I was saying, find her identity. So I came up with that working with my cousin who kind of had an idea. She was working on something, and I was like, hey, I know you had an original idea of something you're trying to do for a podcast that was already named something really popular. I was like, if you give me a little creative freedom, I think I could come up with something, because it wasn't originally a pilot for a TV series or anything like that. It was kind of like a blog or a visual for a blog to kind of intertwine into her social media. So I got a little creative of it, being that a big advocate for therapy. I was like, wow, if I took this and created something that was really, really familiar, that a lot of people could identify, that are currently or previously had gone through stuff, this could be really something to like speak life into people, help them through their situations, and kind of show like how therapy is something that shouldn't be frowned upon, but can kind of help people through situations that they may feel isolated in and they don't know which way is up. So
Mhm.
I got a little creative, reached out to some people, had the ability to work with Lamone Archie from All American on Netflix, and
Oh,
Faith
wow.
Wright that was on Nancy Drew, and Vonnie Archie, who's on BMF this current season, and was able to assemble that crew and create the vision. And it's coming together pretty nicely. And we're on our festival run right now.
Very awesome. I didn't know. That sounds like an incredible story for a lot of people to relate to. I've personally never been divorced, but I've been cheated on, and I know how that can mess up your psyche a little
Mhm.
bit. And just having a resource like therapy, and I feel like there's a stigma about therapy saying like, oh, well, you're not, you got to tough it out by yourself, and that can only work for so long. So more exposure to therapy, I'm all for it, I think. So I think
Nice.
this is gonna hit a lot of people. What was it like working on set, working with, let's say, more established actors? Was that a learning curve for you at all? Or what was that like?
Uh, Honestly, it was weird. It was just like any other set I'd been on and that I was leading on, and they rely on you, and being confident and knowing your vision, like I was previously saying, is
Right.
what allows those actors to trust in you and your vision. And it kind of rolled real smooth. And then having experienced actors like that, they are actually able to bring out other things that our previous conversations before shooting, that they were able to bring to life because we discussed the character where we were going in the series with them. So it was a pleasure to work with them and kind of see how those top tier actors get into the mind of that character, and they have those conversations and they're storing all that information like data to use later to bring that character life in a way that you can't get on paper. So that was an amazing opportunity just to see the level of professionalism, the hard work that goes into that. And it made my life so much easier on set. It was kind of like, okay, they're like, we already talked about this. I know what you want. Boom, we run it a couple times, and I'm like, scolding.
Wow. I bet it was the first AD was like, okay, next, we got the show.
Right.
Yeah,
We had a few one takes. I was like, this is great.
that's awesome. And going back off of what you said about your tour run, what is that like? How do you market your pilot? Are you trying to reach HBO? Are you trying to reach like what networks are you trying to reach to further this into like a full season?
So my ideal would be HBO because they already had that audience base from shows like what's her name? Sorry.
Did it
Amazing.
start? You
I'm
said
sorry, Insecure. Yeah. So with Insecure, they have amazing base that I think is already primed and ready for that. They had Sex in the City back in the days. I think that's the most ideal channel or streaming platform that I would love to be on, HBO Max, because I think it's already integrated and it would fall in and do very well and be successful. Open to many more, especially with Lamone already on Netflix. And there's so many other Prime, Hulu, other streaming options that have good bases that I think it would do well on. But I'm kind of open to whatever because I think a great beginning to do those kind of just opens up the door with other streaming companies and avenues for you to thrive. So I'm kind of open on that, but I think it has very great potential. I'm just excited to kind of see where it goes from there. But navigating the film festival run has been really good. Just trying to get in out there and looking at festivals that are looking for specifically TV series and they have a track record of elevating those and putting them in front of the right financiers, and they have successful films that have reached multiple platforms, so it gives you the opportunity to network with a lot of people. So I look for those and then kind of use those bases from the actors from those festivals to kind of promote and get out there. And then once you're there at the festivals, it's kind of just being that person you are, being confident in your product, networking, and getting out there and speaking to other people, but also learning about what they do and how what you both do can intersect and either help each other or work together, you know?
right. And are we gonna see the pilot at some point? Are you gonna put on Vimeo or YouTube?
Yeah, so right now I'm speaking to a executive producer that we're looking to work with it on BET or
Wow.
Aspire TV possibly. So we're kind of under wraps for now. So it's only primarily at festivals because we want to make sure that it's just in front of those people because they get kind of funny about everybody seeing what they're working on until it's fully in production for the series and stuff. So kind of at that point, but once we get that over that hump and land with whatever network we are, we'll kind of be out there and giving a little more information and previews into what we're doing.
Okay, that's awesome. Do you have any tips for people trying to market the work they've already done? I know a lot of filmmakers are sitting on a lot of work, and not necessarily sure about where to push it or how to get it out there. Do you have tips for those people?
So I think it's strictly a little bit about like I was talking about with selecting the film festival. So you want to look at what genres are typically what genres thrive at those festivals, and then kind of looking at the scale of your work. Like, do you feel this is your top tier finished product, or is this where you really are pushing the concept and you're willing to reshoot and take it to another level? So then kind of looking at those festivals, whether they're local or in different areas so that you have easy accessibility to them and that your resources aren't tapped out, and get into those festivals and then networking, knowing, like I was saying, is this just our proof of concept? Is this my final thing? And how you push it from there and getting people on there and either looking at different actors while you're there and going like, hey, this is what we're working with and starting with. I would love to bring you on as a reshoot because we're looking to make this full feature, and then kind of networking and pushing it that way. And if you do that, then you have the ability to, I would say, be more successful rather than taking in something that we created with our in our backyard with our friends and trying to apply to Sundance when that's just a wasted fee because they already kind of have their shoe-ins and there's 10,000 people vying for maybe 50 spots for the whole festival, you know?
Right, right. That's great advice. That's great. Um,
Thanks.
so we have a segment on the show called the PA Peasant section. Since you're a director, I'm not really sure if you've been a PA. I imagine so, but the whole thing is, we're kind of at the bottom of the barrel. There's some good, positive experiences. There's not so good. So I was wondering if you have a PA peasant story where you either learned a lot, took away from the set, you know, promised yourself you're never going to do what that person did. Like, do you have any of those stories?
Yeah, so in the beginning, before I attended Full Sail, that's when I was actually doing PA kind of with some weekend warrior type filmmakers and an independent type thing. And I just took the opportunity to sit back and observe everything, watch how everything worked. And the biggest takeaway would be the things I wouldn't do to kind of make my set run a whole lot smoother, and observing the things that were successful and thinking about how I could build off of those. So it was an opportunity for me just to observe and soak everything in and take notes mentally and then go back and go, okay, so how would you build off of this? What would be the things you would do to make sure you didn't run into these mistakes? Was that set efficient? What could you do to be more efficient? And those are the things I took into my first set that I ran, and people were like, "Wow, oh my gosh, how long have you been doing that?" I was like, "No, it's the first time," but I just took a lot of takeaways from other people's mistakes and tried to learn on that. And that's what I did going into Full Sail, soaking up all the knowledge I could and asking those instructors, "What would you have done if you had the opportunity to do it in the beginning with everything you know now?" And that's kind of how I try to run my life and everything to avoid those mistakes and make things a little easier on myself.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking of a quote that I've been hearing a lot recently, where it's like a smart person learns from their own mistakes, but a wise person learns from someone else's mistakes. So
Yeah.
you're just like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna do what actually works and make my set the most successful it can be. So I appreciate that. If I was on your set, I'd really appreciate it because I don't like chaos and there can be a lot of chaos on film sets. But yeah. So what are you working on next? Do you have,
Uh,
yeah, what are you working on next?
so a few things. So I have a few friends kind of already into the NFL coaching and analyst section of everything. So trying to work with something on them as we go towards the preseason. That's going to be a little kind of analyst pregame shows, a little smaller project. And then actually going to be working on a pilot for another series that I'm going to do, a torch that I'm going to submit to Angel Studios called The Seven Seals, that kind of goes over Revelation times. And that's going to be a book and an adaptation for a series that I'm really excited about working on and putting together. So that's the next two things that I have on my plate.
Are you writing the book too?
Yeah, so I actually finished my master's in creative writing, and the next thing on the plate is creating series and then bringing them to life as a film or TV series. So that's what I love to do. That's why I initially was a kind of behind the scenes type of guy and didn't have directing on my plate or in sight of the future. So that's where I'm going back to the original plan, but then still working with what's been working for me.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your master's. That's huge.
Thanks.
And I'm excited to see what you produce next because obviously I think it's a natural thing for you to push through this, you're like the ship of the captain. No, you're the captain of the ship.
I knew
Sorry.
what you were talking about.
Yeah. It's like you're working, you're building the ship and then you're also like leading it and you're building the crew as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to what you have next. And honestly, I'm looking for a therapy sesh on BET. I think that'll be really sick. Yeah, but that's pretty much all the time that we have for today. I just want to thank Jason again for being vulnerable about his process and all the things that he's working on. Learn from his mistakes, learn from his cues. If you're a director, writer, producer, and if you want to connect with Jason, we'll put all his information in our show notes. But is there anything else you wanted to add while we're here?
Just keep writing, keep directing, and getting out there, connecting, and eventually you'll break through. Thanks for having me, Kat.
Yeah, for sure.